Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, joined by my hero John Lenhart. Hi John.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about a few things all coming together. We have done over 50 videos together, you and I, John, over the last 6 months. We have content here that can allow people to change their own lives just by reading and applying what we're speaking to them about. So moving forward, you and I have both discussed that we wish to bring some things together, and really this will be off the back of marriage, but again, we have other videos that we can share to show where we're coming from in these videos. So we're going to have a combination of things today. So would you like to start us off and where we want to go, please?
Yeah, that's excellent. We have done over 50 videos, and it's now time for Colin and I get to start talking about all the things we actually like talking about. A lot of this has just been fundamentals. So in these videos, as we get a little more complicated, if you're missing a part, we'll give you the links to this. A couple months ago, we did a video about sex. And I said in that video that when Jonathan and I did these How to Be a Man class, the very first class, we shared what was in that very first video. So today what I'd like to do is I'd like to share what Jonathan and I share in the second class of that How to Be a Man class. And it has to do with art, and it has to do with sex, and it has to do with marriage. So if you think about it, sex is art. What did we say about art? Art is that person's unique expression of truth. And so that's what sex is. Sex is actually art, and sex is how we express our uniqueness and how we get energy, and it's the truth we're expressing, malevolent or benevolent. And that's the thing, is what a lot of guys don't realize is when they start talking about the woman they want to have sex with, and guys get together and all of a sudden a woman walks by, or they start talking about some famous woman. When they do that, they're giving away more about themselves and their uniqueness and their view of the world than what they even realize. So when we share this topic today with people, a lot of guys get real nervous around me because they're like, wait, what did I say in front of him? Because you know how guys talk, what have I been saying? And that's the thing, is that who a guy wants to have sex with is an expression of his truth and his view of the world. And so this is where we start showing these guys there's some pitfalls in how you look at that. Now, we said, sex is 90% of a bad marriage, 10% of a good marriage. And I will tell you the big thing that we talked about last week that was important with this marriage in lockdown is as guys, we should have been raised to love. Unfortunately, I'm going to say 99.99% of guys are raised this way. Son, take more than what gets taken from you. And conjunctive, when something gets taken from you, don't respond in a way that'll cause you to end up in jail.
Yeah.
So that's really what the man code is. The man code is you need to take more than gets taken from you. And when stuff gets taken from you, it happens. Don't kill them or put yourself in jail. And what we tried to show last week with lockdown is one of the issues is we don't know how to give our energy. We don't know how to love. And especially in a marriage for guys, they don't know how to do that. They're just focused on taking. And that's what drains a lot of these marriages. So that's where kind of we're looking at this second man topic as it relates to marriage, sex, art, and love.
Yeah, love that. And women understand it's happening, but they don't know how to stop it. They don't know how to change it. And they feel like the victim in the relationship that they're always giving. They don't realize it goes back to the men's programming growing up from when they're younger as well, and yes, it's not right. They don't deserve some of the bad treatment. They don't deserve giving all the time. We understand that. And you and I can both empathize and sympathize with them. But what we're trying to do here is allow them to understand it's not just what they believe, it's not the tangible benefits or the things that they see. There's a lot more going underneath that. And that is why I love to talk about people about the stuff that you and I talk about and really go kind of deep with them to give them a realization that there's always more.
So you just brought in art. which is why we have these discussions, why we took so long to build our way up to art, and why art's so important. It's exactly what you just said. We look at stuff consciously and we don't realize it's the unconscious stuff, the intangible, that's actually driving everything. So that's exactly why we're pulling all these things together. So when we're talking with these guys, there is a path you can go down for sex that is a bad path. And so when Jonathan and I, and you had Jonathan on, a couple weeks ago, when Jonathan and I helped these marriages, there was a point where Jonathan and I were helping 4 marriages where all 4 marriages, they weren't having sex less than 6 months after they got married. And they couldn't tell why. And there's 2 general reasons why. So one of the reasons is now you're allowed to have sex.
Yeah.
So what happens is, and this is an example of the intangible, is 2 people are having sex before they're married, and they are attaching the thrill to the fact we're having sex and we're not allowed to. And then they get married and now you're allowed to have sex. Where'd the energy go? So that's a great example of the intangible is more important than what we said before. The sex organ is the brain. It's not your genitals. Your sex organ is here. And so all the energy out of sex got drained because now they were allowed to because they got married.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as you were talking there, it's almost like when your name goes on that dotted line. And I fell for this as well when I did it. Again, I probably shouldn't have got married, and I did. But at the time, I learned a few valuable lessons that lasted 5 years. But I found when my name went on that dotted line, everything changed. There was more pressure, less fun. And when there's more pressure and less fun, it almost skews your view on everything else, which is sex, art, love, all of these things, because now it's got to be done, or you feel it's got to be done in a certain way. So I totally understand where you're coming from that, and I see exactly what you're saying. I'm sure other people will now resonate where they are in their relationship. So how can they change that?
So the thing is we're eventually going to talk about flow and how you do that because you want to, but you just actually introduced the second reason why this happens, and from the woman's point of view. So I love this I don't want to, I have to thing. So the second reason why a lot of these marriages fall apart or no longer want to have sex comes back to the guy having a porn addiction or looking at porn. So if you think about it now, let's pull a bunch of these things together. So this guy is watching this video, this pornographic video. There's a story in there. There's a conscious thing that you're watching, but what is unconsciously happening?
Yeah.
What is really happening in that video, in that movie? So you realize something that we talked about unconsciously. We have these micro expressions. We're giving away the truth through our face. Even though we say one thing, we're giving away the truth here. And what happens is actors in pornography aren't very good actors. Now, here's the reason, and I'll say this. Really great, what happens to really great actors and actresses? Like, I'm a big Brad Pitt fan, okay? So what happens to Brad Pitt when he does a movie with Angelina Jolie while he's married to someone else? What happens?
You can feel the expression on his face. You don't feel the same connection.
So they end up getting married. He leaves his wife for Angelina Jolie. Why? Because they played married people in this movie. Why? Because they're really good at it. What does that mean? All their micro expressions are doing.
Yeah, it's coming into the other person, and they're reading that and they believe it.
They believe it.
It's why we believe while they're on the screen. So the connection that I was talking there was like, because you're already married, it's almost taken away from that connection to create a new one.
So these really great actors know that the great acting is these micro expressions, but those only happen if you really believe it. So these actors have to put themselves in this space where they really believe it, so it comes out. So what does Christian Bale do? He loses 60 or 70 pounds for this part, then he does. I mean, really great actors are putting themselves in a place and really believing it. So when it comes out their face, we believe it. And the problem is when they act with somebody that they're married to, they believe they're married off the screen. They're telling their unconscious brain that, and they start to be attractive. And next thing you know, they're done with their spouse and they're that way. That doesn't happen in porn. These people aren't leaving anybody for each other. Why? Because they don't want to have sex.
Yep.
So here's the reality. That actress, all her micro expressions are saying, I don't want to have sex. I don't want to do this. And what do we call it when a woman has sex against her will?
That would be rape. And just now that you've touched on that subject, and now people have probably just been horrified that I've used that word on camera. But sometimes we need to face the reality. We need to face the reality. And because of that pressure through a marriage, and sometimes the male can be on the receiving end of this as well. If they don't want to, if they, and they feel that they've got to go through the motions, it's mostly on the women, I feel. But it can happen to men as well.
So here's the thing, and again, we talked about Ayn Rand and we talked about art and everything. And Ayn Rand has this point in Atlas Shrugged, and this is one of the points we make to men in the second class, is it is impossible for a man to have intercourse that he doesn't enjoy. Physiologically, it's impossible.
Yeah.
However, women can have intercourse without enjoying it. Yeah. So there's a big difference here now to understand how men view this and how women view this. So notice, in order for a guy to have intercourse, he has to enjoy it. It has to be an expression of his truth. It has to be an expression of his view of life. It doesn't have to be for the woman. But the damage is if a guy's been looking a lot of porn, he starts enjoying this moment of sex with a woman who doesn't want to. And now he gets married and he's having sex with his wife, and he's wired his brain to enjoy having sex with a woman who doesn't want to. And that's coming out his face.
Yes.
And her face is seeing that, and it's coming out back. And all of a sudden they can't even look at each other. Because and they don't know what's wrong and they can't express it. I can't express what's wrong. And what's happening is in order for that guy to do this thing, he has to think about somebody else, or he has to think about doing this kind of against her will. Then she senses it, and then no one wants to talk about it. And now they stop having sex and no one wants to talk about it. And the reality is it's because he actually has wired his brain to only enjoy sex if it is rape.
Yes. Now, two things I would like to say on the back of that. The first thing is, I'm 100% with that. I've had several friends throughout the year, or the years of my years, that have said that they use other thoughts of other people to be able to get to where they want to get in climax. Okay, so I understand that. I personally have never used that because I've always had something in the back of my mind that knew what they were saying was wrong, and when they told me, I felt it was wrong and it wasn't truth. So that was the first thing. Second thing is, when we go back to the way the woman's brain and the man's brain is, they've got one thought process, the men, so they think about one thing is to get in, get done, get out, be happy, go to sleep. Okay, the women we'll go back to these micro expressions. If they've got 5 thoughts, and one's about the dinner they just had, the second one's, why is his face not making the same way as I feel? Are they looking at something that's maybe not allowing me to feel comfortable? Am I insecure? Something else. Have I washed properly? Women, because they've got a 5 thought process and not a 1, they need to, as we've spoken about before, they need to come down to 1 thought to be able to enjoy, to climax, to finish and enjoy. And at that way, they would want to have sex. If they're going through, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and they're going through the motions like an IKEA mattress tester, Okay, and it's just that it's just ongoing. They're not allowing themselves to enjoy it, and because they're not feeling the man. So where I believe it has to change is the man being able to show love, to show empathy. Do I believe that they would have to stop watching porn to do this? Yes, I do. I have not watched, and I'll be completely honest, as a human, warm-blooded male, I've not watched porn in over 3 years. And I'll tell you now, it's been the best decision that I've ever made in my life. Because not only with sex or anything, it makes me enjoy life more because I'm not relying on fake art, fake programming, fake, all this stuff that we're talking about. So I know I've probably went over what I wanted to say there, but there's many. I think, we can really open this up and talk about other things. Porn is destroying relationships. Porn is destroying interactions. Porn is destroying feelings. It's destroying beliefs and brain pathways in terms of what people see to what they actually enjoy.
Right. And that's all right in line with what I want to talk about. In fact, some of the things you said, I definitely want to handle next week as we go through how this works. But here's the deal. So I'm going to kind of hint at a little bit. The best sex a man's ever going to have is when all of his brain is present. So what I like to say to guys, and I love giving this talk in front of women with guys, and especially honestly, I give this talk with high school students. And the first question I ask these guys is, are you ever going to have sex with that woman in that video? And the women all laugh. It's something women, they unconscious, just like you said, they're not feeling it, but they don't have words for it. I just put words of feeling. Women look at that and they intuitively know that's so stupid because you're never going to be with that person. Why would you focus on a person you're never going to be with? And so your brain can't get into it. Not all your brain. Your amygdala is going to get into it because if you are, watching that and imagining that, your amygdala thinks you had sex with that person, which is a small part of your brain. But consciously and most of your unconscious, 90% of your brain knows you didn't. So it's not going to be present there. So it's undercutting you for all the reasons you said. I'm giving you the reason why it undercuts you is that you're wiring your brain towards a woman you're never actually going to be with. And your unconscious knows that. So your unconscious sits out and it'll sit out this. So next week, I'm going to show you how to get your unconscious into this. So it's amazing. Okay. But here's what's happening is we're taking that out of here. So now, if you think about it, all you're really doing is convincing your amygdala you're okay. But when you're with this other woman, you don't have any of that. None of that's present because you've wired your brain to something else. So that's why you're off that way. So now, what's the issue here? The issue is that these guys don't want to have this addiction. So as much as it's the guy's fault, and it is the guy's fault, stop doing it. These guys want us, if you talk to any guy with the porn addiction, they want to stop doing it. And the issue is the first thing I teach them is this beauty versus attraction. Beauty is physical, everything you said earlier. Attraction is intangible. Our beauty is always running down. The attraction can grow. And my point to these guys is when they're looking at something, beauty is defined by a lack of imperfection. So the longer you stare at the most beautiful woman in the world, the more likely you're going to find something off and she won't be beautiful. And I've said, find any woman who's the most beautiful woman in the world, whoever she is, some guy got tired of having sex with her. So it's not about beauty. So the problem with pornography is, I say to these guys, I say, you look at something, you look at some image and it helps you for 2, 3, 4 days a week or whatever. And then over time, it doesn't do it. And then all of a sudden the images, and it's like, how quickly, I'll ask guys when they want help getting over an addiction, how quickly are you burning through these images? And they're like, oh, seconds. I'm like, you're on a bad path. You're on this beauty path. You should be on this attraction path. So the question is, how do you break a porn addiction? I will tell you, I had a blog from 2006 to 2013, had almost 1,500 posts in it. And I had a post in there, how to permanently break a porn addiction. And this is back, I'm going to say like 2008. if you would have Googled how to break a porn addiction, my post would have come up like number 2 or number 3 in the world at that time. And I had a friend who worked with Google who told me, I'm like, how did my post get up? And way back then, I don't know if it's true now, what Google used to do was they would track all, like if when somebody Googles something, they track which things they went to. The last link they would value more because the assumption was, well, the last link must have answered your question. And I can only assume that people read my link and it was the last link they ever had to read. So you're right, Colin, it's the guy's fault. But what I'd like to do to kind of close this video is to share with guys how to break this addiction to porn, because I think they want to break it more than anything.
Yes, because, and I love talking to you about, you know, the whole serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, you know, all these chemicals that men get, while or all humans get it, but men get it from porn, you know. And sometimes if they feel that they're in a marriage where they've signed on that dotted line that we just spoke about, that pressure that we have to rather than want to, and then the women feel the same, the men go towards that. I believe porn also takes them towards, and male and female, I'll say, going towards having sex out with their marriage, and actually brings them towards cheating as well, because the porn's not doing it anymore. And if they don't break that habit, they're literally going to go out and have to find the tangible version of that. So you won't get the person on the screen, but you will get the person out in the street. So with you and I, what we can do is we're going to get you to give the how they're able to finish it and how they're able to cut it off if they really want to. And most do. Most want to, they don't want the drama or they having to go and focus on. They want to feel settled. This is what human being. They are habitual creatures. So can you please tell us how we can get men and women off of the porn addiction, please?
So I'm going to deal with men in this video. So the issue is these men want a thrill. And so what you're talking about, yeah, they'll go outside the marriage because it's about this thrill. And we said earlier, these people could have sex before they're married. Now they can't. The thrill is gone. So these guys want a thrill. And the problem is guys think sex is the biggest thrill. Sex is not a cause. Sex is an effect. And that's the biggest thing I want these guys to wire their brain is your brain ought to be wired towards sex being an effect, not sex being a cause. Sex ought to be an effect of the biggest thrill a guy can experience. So when you look at it, when I share this with guys, I love talking with guys. These guys are like, I'm wild at heart. They talk about all this stuff like it's some justification of I'm wild. I'm the thrill. I go for thrill seeking. I'm challenged. I jump out of planes. I jump off cliffs. I do all these thrill seeker things. And I say, well, then and those guys have the biggest porn addictions. Honestly, all these guys who are fueling themselves on thrills, they have the biggest ones. Okay. And so the thing that I say to them is I say, here's how you break it. You just need to do this. And when I tell them this, they go, like, it's like, wait a minute, you'll jump out of a plane, you'll jump off a cliff, but this scares you. So it's like, the thing is that you can't do a don't. You cannot do a don't. So don't have this porn addiction. You can't do that. The only way to break an addiction is to intentionally do the opposite. So I show these guys to do the opposite of porn, and it scares the crap out of them. So here's the opposite of porn. Taking an emotional risk with a woman. That scares guys to death. And that's what makes women attracted to guys.
Yep.
So that's the thing is I'll say to guys, take an emotional risk, share some with a woman, how you're feeling or what you're thinking that could cause you to go, ooh, that could cause you to get rejected. But I thought you like to jump out of planes. I thought you like to jump off of cliffs. This is scary to you though, huh?
Yeah.
There's no risk in porn. It's not even a real woman. It's the opposite. Porn is not a risk with a woman. The opposite of porn is take an emotional risk with a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And women, because men tend to not show emotion, a woman feels closer to a man when they're willing to open up and speak. And that's maybe why, you know, you see these men, and I've been like, maybe not the way I look now in my beard, but people have always said that I was quite feminine and I was always in touch with myself. And I don't believe that I was feminine as in female. I mean feminine as in I was able to show my feelings, express myself. And in situations, I used to go about with some really, in the groups when I used to perform, there were some really good looking guys, massive big muscles. And you know, the things that the tangible things that people go for, like the porn stars, like the beautiful people. But then when they spoke to me in a different level, it was like they warmed up to that. It was like the attractive women would come and speak to me, not because I was the best looking, but because they felt something. And I'm not saying that I got that all the time before anyone says your ego's coming out here. It's not like that. It was just that I was able to sense this without putting words to it from a younger age. And people always used to wonder why I had so many people wanting to be my friend, or and why it was always female. And it's because they felt safe in my energy. They felt safe in my company because I would share and they wouldn't have to work out or feel threatened. So people can share with their wife, their partner, and allow them to feel more, and they will actually gain more from that as well.
Yes, and I'm gonna stop here. You're like 3 episodes ahead of us now. So that was awesome. What you just shared was awesome. So I've got nothing more to say.
No, done. No, listen, thank you very much. It was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to adding more to this and genuinely helping people. So, guys, if you're watching, please just open up your heart and speak your feelings to your partner or to the next woman you see, and you will understand the difference in connection. Women, if you do not have that connection with your man, ask him to open up and ask him nicely in a non-threatening way and see how he feels, and we'll see how we go from that. So thank you, John. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye.